According to statistics, 1.6% of Americans suffer from borderline personality disorder. That amounts to more than 5 million people in the United States suffering from this condition. What's even more alarming is that between 4 and 9% of those borderline personality disorders actually succeed in committing suicide. Did I get your attention there? I hope so, because this disorder is no laughing matter. And I strongly urge you to watch the entire video to learn more about it and possibly save someone's life. Hello, and welcome to Trauma Recovery Pathway. This channel is all about mental health education that primarily focuses on the adverse effects of complex and childhood trauma with adults. Borderline personality disorder is one of the most dangerous of the 10 personality disorders. It manifests as a pervasive pattern of poor self-perception and interpersonal relationship instability that has a significant impact on daily life. This content is for educational purposes only and should not be used to self-diagnose, stigmatize, label, or diagnose others. Without further ado, let's get into the 9 traits of borderline personality disorder. Number 1, an intense fear of abandonment. People suffering from this condition have difficulty tolerating being alone with an intense sensitivity to abandonment. They live in fear and are often convinced that people are abandoning them, even if there is no evidence to support this belief. If they notice small changes in their partner's behaviors, they will magnetize it and resort to possessiveness, clinginess, and are willing to go to any lengths necessary and use extreme measures to prevent the other person from leaving the relationship. If you date someone with this condition, they need constant reassurance and may struggle to give you space to function independently outside of the relationship. They might spend significant amounts of time calling or messaging you several times a day, constantly stalking your activities on social media, and feel threatened by their partner's friends or colleagues from the opposite sex. Does that remind you of someone? I hope not, but let's move to number 2. A pattern of unstable, intense relationships. BPD can be exhausting due to the frequent roller coaster of emotions. People with this condition typically struggle to maintain healthy relationships because they tend to abruptly change their personal views about others. Their mood quickly shifts from one extreme to another. They might idolize and gush about how perfect someone is, but as soon as that person says something wrong, he or she now becomes the worst person they've ever met. Moods vary from extreme happiness to sadness and irritability the same day and vice versa. Their friendships, marriages, and relationships with family members are often chaotic and unstable. In many instances, this is why borderline personality disorder is often confused with bipolar disorder. Number 3, unstable self-image or sense of self. People with BPD don't just have complicated emotions and relationships. They also have love-hate feelings about who they are and go through extremes in how they view themselves. They often have a distorted or unclear self-image and often feel guilty or ashamed and see themselves as bad. Because of their lack of self-awareness, they may also abruptly and dramatically change their self-image, shown by suddenly changing their goals, opinions, careers, or friends. They also tend to sabotage their own progress. For instance, they may fail a test on purpose, ruin relationships, or get fired from a job. Their unstable self-image is associated with excessive self-criticism and chronic feelings of emptiness. The next sign is very sensitive, so buckle up your seatbelt. Number 4, suicidal threats or self-harm. Between extreme feelings about self-hatred and anger towards others, people with BPD might engage in self-harm behaviors as a way to release that emotion. Sometimes these destructive behaviors can be used as a response to fear of separation or rejection. Believe me when I mentioned earlier, they are willing to use extreme measures to avoid rejection and abandonment. Due to the sensitivity of this trait, in case you relate or know anyone who can relate with the signs or behaviors mentioned, I urge you to take actions and contact the Mental Health Crisis Hotline. That can be found in the description section. Number 5, impulsive and self-destructive behavior. Emotional instability and poor coping often lead to erratic, impulsive, and risky behaviors. Individuals with this condition tend to engage in unhealthy and risky behaviors, such as gambling, reckless driving, unsafe sex, spending sprees, binge eating or drug abuse, or sabotaging success by suddenly quitting a good job or ending a positive relationship. Unfortunately, these behaviors come with serious consequences. If that sounds like your situation, I highly encourage you to seek help. Don't be embarrassed or ashamed. This is about gaining emotional stability to thrive in all aspects of your life. Number 6. Persistent feelings of loneliness or emptiness. No one truly wants to be alone. As a matter of fact, 40 studies of social isolation and loneliness found evidence to link these states to higher risk of early death, cardiovascular issues, and worsened mental health. However, people with borderline are extremists with their feelings and emotions. They experience intense and chronic feelings of loneliness and are uncomfortable with social isolation. They may feel sad, bored, unfulfilled, or empty. Feelings of worthlessness and self-loathing are common too. Number 7. Anger management issues. Because they are too focused on their emotions, people with this condition tend to have difficulty controlling their anger and often become intensely angry, which can be expressed with intense arguments, biting sarcasm, bitterness, or angry tirades. After the heat of the moment has passed, they are able to process what happened and might experience feelings of embarrassment, guilt, and shame after realizing their actions weren't appropriate. Number 8. Disassociation and temporary paranoid thoughts. Due to overwhelming and constant emotional shift, people with BPD often experience what is known as dissociative episodes, which is a feeling of being disconnected from your own body and from the world around you. Oftentimes, this can result in paranoid thoughts and sometimes hallucinations that may be triggered by extreme stress, usually fear of abandonment. These symptoms are typically temporary and not severe enough to be considered a separate disorder. Number 9. Rapid mood changes. People with BPD may experience sudden changes in how they feel about others, themselves, and the world around them. Irrational emotions, including uncontrollable anger, fear, anxiety, hatred, sadness, and love, change frequently and suddenly. These swings usually last only a few hours and rarely more than a few days. All right, folks, that's all for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it educational. I'm sure by now you understand how critical this condition is. But don't worry, there is a way to get help. If you can relate to or know anyone who can relate to several of these signs, please consider reaching out to a healthcare and mental health professional. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you can get regular updates. We'll see you in the next video.